Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar, the fourth in this term's series of webinars in partnership with the ANME and Schudio. Today's webinar will be on website compliance for network managers, live audits and practical guidance. The event is being recorded and will be available on the portal from lunchtime tomorrow. There is a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please pop them in there and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the session. I'm delighted to introduce Ian from Schudio, who will be today's presenter, and I will hand over to Ian.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ben. Really appreciate it. And thanks, Rick, as well. Thank you both and everybody here for having me on. It's good to see you all. Let me just jump in here and see if I can share my screen. Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you. All right, we'll dive right in. Thanks so much. So today we're going to look at website compliance together. So hopefully this will be a helpful time. We'll try and make sure we stick to time and love to answer your questions as well. Just to give you a bit of an overview of what we're going to talk through today. And I'm kind of going to rattle through a load of stuff. So I think just one thing to say, it's absolutely fine from my point of view. If there's a question, if I spot it, I'll try and jump in to answer it. Somebody, Ben can give me a poke if that's helpful. But we'll definitely make sure there's time at the end for questions as well, if that's something that you have any questions about anything that we talked through today. So I'm going to look through, just give you a tiny little bit about Schudio, who we are, do that very, very quickly. And then we're going to look at some of the kind of key requirements, things that are there, and any kind of key dates that are coming up. Some specific areas where we know lots of schools miss, and things where maybe there's banana skins around on this kind of stuff. So we've done this a lot. So we'll give you a bit of an idea of maybe the things, how you can avoid certain stuff on there as well. And then what we're going to do is I think we've got one, I always call them victims, who submitted their, sent in their website address. So what we'll do is I've picked just a small number of the areas that need you need you to action and publish stuff on your sites. So we're going to look at some of those together specifically, but the principles we'll talk through as we look through those will apply to everything. And then I'll give you some ideas of where you can kind of get resources on how you can cover everything yourself as well, and how we can help as well. So we're talking about next steps, talk about some free resources that I can definitely make available if that's helpful. And then some really important considerations. So things, like I say, that we see time and time again being missed, or quick wins, or particularly difficult areas where you need to focus your attention a little bit. So just a tiny bit about us. So we're experts in marketing and communications and compliance. So core function of the business is we build websites for schools. So we're not gigantic. We look after about 700 schools around the country. Number of trusts, number of schools of all sorts of different shapes and sizes. From that point of view, nice family-run firm. It's not gigantic, but hopefully do a really good job of looking after people. And that's kind of where you'll see those two things that maybe we certainly like to think differentiate us a little bit, is how we approach support. So one of our mantras is we never want you to feel like you've been landed with something and we've legged it. So we're very hands-on in terms of how we support our clients as well. And that line of care over cash, it's a bit of a cheesy one, but it is. We obviously got to make some money, but really important to us to make sure that you very much feel looked after. You've got somebody in your corner, really fighting your corner, as it were, when it comes to website stuff, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to getting bums on seats, and obviously particularly today when it comes to compliance. So a tiny bit about us. Some resources that I can make available if it's helpful. If you were to go to schudio.com, you would easily, hopefully, be able to find the school website requirements guide. Hopefully really useful resource, downloaded thousands of times by schools all over the country. That's your free starting point. And I know a number of providers have this kind of checklist. We try and go way beyond just a checklist. So there's a load of advice in there. There's a load of best practice stuff. And just so you know, whenever there are changes released, we act quickly and really robustly to make sure that's up to date. So by downloading that, you'd always get it's the fastest way to get updates if anything changes as well. So that would be one thing I'd really encourage you to do, and we can share links and that kind of stuff as well. We have a piece of our software that lets you check your site against the latest requirements anytime. So I'll give you a bit of sight of that as we go through some stuff as well today, because it'll be hopefully helpful, giving you a way of managing things quite easily. We've got really lovely policy management software that is available for website clients, but also not website clients. And I would really like to make myself available. So anybody that's here today, if you have, or even watching replay, if you have any questions at any time on this stuff, I am available. Just have a chat or answer any questions about that. And we don't just kind of protect that for just clients. We just want to be as helpful as we can. So if that's ever of help, then feel free to drop me a line, and I'll share my details at the end of the session today. Things that we can do full audits for you at any point. So we want to make it so you have this knowledge in your heads and the tools you need to do this yourself, and feeling like you're confident in doing it is not really a big stress for you. But sometimes it's really helpful to have somebody else kind of backing you up, so we can do audits, if you say, with kind of harsh markers, so you get a really robust, actionable report to make sure that you're keeping your site up to date. And there's a bunch of other stuff we do as well. Let's dive into what we actually want to talk about today, some of the key stuff. Again, if it's helpful, I'll make all these slides available so we can talk through all that stuff as well. But some things that are really important to cover, let's work through some of those so that we're hopefully making sure you've got some kind of knowledge going in there. One of the big things we see is, a question I'm asked really often is, what's the difference between a must and a should? And if you were to look at the government website and you would look at what maintained schools must publish online, what academies and colleges must publish online, those two distinct pages, they're really similar. There's some differences on them, but they have a lot of the same stuff. But you'll notice on one, it talks about what you must do, and one where it says you should do. And really the answer to that comes down to the different regulatory frameworks that maintained schools versus academies are working under. So maintained schools are obviously governed by statutory regulations and local authority guidelines, and academies are governed by funding agreements, etc. So that's just the reason that you see differences. Everything that we do works under the basis that you just need to do it. So whatever requirement is there, you just need to do it. And again, some of the examples that you'll see, maybe we'll touch on some of them today, they're not relevant to everybody. So something like pay gap reporting is only relevant to organizations of over 250 employees. That might not be relevant to you. Our advice is, even if you don't publish it, just put something in that says, we're not publishing it because, or we're not publishing who earns over 100 grand a year because nobody does. Those kind of things. A bit of context. Taking the time to put something in that answers the question before it's asked is a really, really good principle to follow when we look through some of this stuff today. And again, we might see that as we go through some pieces today. Some things that we see, really, really commonly see from this point of view, from a compliance point of view on your site, lots of missing or outdated content. It's really normal. We do audits all the time, so any new client automatically gets an audit of their content before it goes live. We see it all the time. Policies, reports, key documents, really easy for those to get out of date. So some things have to be reviewed annually, and there are, for some things, dates where you've got to actually review them. So it's really easy for that to get out of touch if you're not on top of everything. We see lots of poor website navigation as well. So, and again, this isn't a criticism, but you're so mobbed in school that what happens a lot of the time is if you know you've got something to put on the site, very often it kind of just gets lobbed on because you're so busy, you just got to put it on somewhere. So that's why we see these ever expanding, unwieldy menus across sites. So what that then means from a compliance point of view is really critical information can be really hard to find. So again, we can support with rationalization of content and helping you figure out what good structures look like to make sure that things are where they need to be as well. So making sure that things are easy to find is a really good thing to do. We see lots of broken links, PDFs that don't open properly. So an example of PDFs that don't open properly, lots and lots and lots, most still school websites, you put a PDF on the site, you'll click the link to the PDF that's for, say, your attendance policy or your admissions policy or something, and you click the link to the PDF and the PDF will open in the same window on the site. From a just standard website usage accessibility point of view, that's just not the best experience. So again, I'll show you some examples as we go, different ways of doing that kind of thing, but it's really common to see things like broken links and PDFs either not really easy to access. I've got to download them, but also what we see is lots of different ways of doing things. So what's really consistent is really important is to keep things consistent. So let's say, for example, on one page you've got policies that you've embedded on the page, and the next page you've got a link to a PDF, and the next page it's a link to a PowerPoint or something. just having something doing this consistently makes a huge difference, because you've got to make things easy to do, easy to find, easy to access, easy to engage with. We also see a lack of accessibility on this stuff, so things should be screen reader friendly as well. There's a thing happening at the moment where we're starting to see there's one particular requirement, which is the PE and Sport Premium, where if you're publishing specific information using the template provided by DFE for publishing that information on your site, you can put it on as a PDF if you want to, but they're actually starting to say now, put that piece of information on as HTML, because that will make it accessible. We're expecting that to become the case for absolutely everything on your site, but at the moment you don't need to worry about that, and we're working on something that's going to get ahead of that anyway. That's going to make it so it's really straightforward. We could at least be able to offer advice on doing that if you haven't got the tech either, but we're working on some tech for that purpose. But from a starting point now, doing everything you can to make it as easy to use is really kind of mission critical on this stuff. We also see a lack of context or explanation. So again, like I said before, if there's something you're not publishing, so special schools, for example, it might be stuff you don't publish because it's not relevant to your setting. It's just really important in any instance like that where you just say it. That idea of answering the question before it's been asked is a really good principle to follow from an inspection point of view, because you're getting ahead of a conversation that might be something that comes your way, and any chance you've got to avoid that is just a good way of reducing stress around the thing as well. In terms of things that you need to be doing, kind of some key actions, definitely need to be doing an annual review. So once a year at least, somebody needs to be responsible for checking the site from top to bottom to make sure every requirement is being met. That's an absolute must. You need a checklist. As I say, we provide something, other providers have checklists available. If you went on the Gov website, you'd find the list of all the requirements there, but there's some stuff that's set up specifically for the purpose. Again, our software lets you check your site side by side with the latest requirements at any point as well. Again, make sure policies are easy to find. Really common to see something like a key information section on your site now, and then a load of stuff kind of published under there. And again, as we go through, I'll show you kind of examples of how things are structured so you can get a good feel for that as well. And again, make sure that documents are able to be opened in a way that actually works. Make it consistent. Make sure it's a way that isn't all over the place. And if it's, like I say, you're clicking a link to open a PDF, make sure that opens in a new tab so I can stay where I am on the page. The rule there is, it's a bit like if I'm clicking a link on a site to go off to any different site or any different content, that should open in a new tab. That's just kind of standard web function. And then think like an inspector. And really what we mean by that is, so before an inspection, before a visit, review your website, but maybe get somebody else to do it and go, how easy is this stuff to find? Did you manage to find it? I had one conversation with an inspector a couple of years ago, said I'll spend probably 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes looking around your site for one particular piece of information. I thought, what? I would never spend that long looking around for anything. So if that's what they're doing, and they're potentially spending that long looking for a piece of information, they're giving you a lot of time there. You know what we're like when we're shopping, for example. It would take seconds and we'll bounce off a site if we can't quickly find what we're looking for potentially. So, but we want to avoid that. We want to avoid, if we can, any scenario where they're having to spend a lot of time looking around for stuff, if you know what I mean. So let's try and make things as easy as possible to find. And what are they actually looking for? Well, there are nuances that changes around that. And again, our stuff that we send out regularly will always have the latest information on the kind of stuff that they're actually looking for from time to time as well. Just as we move on, a few really quick points around the new inspection framework. So you'll know this, you're kind of living in this world much more than I am. So you'll know this from much better than I do. But a couple of things just to highlight on here. So inclusion is now a formal judgment area. Now, how that relates to website stuff, there's been no changes to, other than a few grammar changes, there's been no changes to the actual requirements, I think, since May 24. So that makes us overdue for some changes. And when things start to happen, like a new inspection framework and things like inclusion is now a formal judgment area, and there's a change of language and there's different pieces coming on there, we should expect some changes. There's a deeper focus on curriculum and teaching, and I'm going to focus a little bit on curriculum in a moment when we look through some specifics. But the subject pages are playing a much larger role in inspections. So curriculum content's really got to demonstrate the intent and implementation and how parents are engaged, all that kind of stuff there as well. So when that type of stuff starts happening within the inspection framework, by extension, it's going to impact what we need to do with our website. Safeguarding is a funny thing. If you went on to, so again, the Gov site, and you looked at what maintained schools must publish online or whoever, you won't find any mention of safeguarding in there. But of course, in the safeguarding information, it says you've got to publish a load of stuff on your website. So they don't really help us out here very much on some of these things. You would be helpful if it was listed in the safeguarding stuff. It was also listed on, yeah, you've got to publish this stuff online as well. So it's a really important one. It's actually, and you can relate this to different things. So maybe think about this as how it applies to your setting. Safeguarding, rightly so, is always the #1 consideration. And if you were to look at your site now, and I would have to dig around a little bit in menus to find where safeguarding is on your site, it actually says, how important is safeguarding to you? If it's front and center on your site, okay, safeguarding, without me thinking about it, I'm going to make a judgment immediately that, oh, okay, safeguard is front and center. That's a good thing. Likewise, if you've got, for example, a safeguarding policy on your policies page and on your safeguarding page, just do a quick check as soon as you jump off this call and go, if you've got 2 in different places, are they both the same? Are they both the most recent one? Because we've seen that when the phone call appears, the first thing they say is we've got a safeguarding concern. It's not we've got a thing on your site that's a bit out of date. It's not a leadership and management issue. It's a safeguarding issue because there's 2 different dated safeguarding policies on the site. So it's so important to get some of this stuff right. Some of it is just, oh, you've missed off that little bit of contact details. Some of it is proper mission critical. So that's just to say from an inspection framework point of view that, again, hopefully it's going to get pulled into the main list of stuff we've got to do with a little bit more direction in it as well. From our position, what we're not doing is we're not jumping the gun. We're keeping a close eye on it. We've got good contacts at DFE, good contacts as some trust leaders who are kind of at the sharp end of things here. So we're keeping a close eye on it, and we'll make sure that anybody who is subscribed to our stuff, or we can obviously pass it through the ANME portal and make sure we put some stuff on there if there's anything changes, so you're always up to date. But in terms of things that would be good to do pretty quickly, definitely have a look at your inclusion, your send bits on your site, and your curriculum content on your site. Make sure that your policies are up to date, that you're consistent in approach of how you're publishing your content, like policies on your site, and make sure if you've got school improvement stuff that actually you've got that published on your site as well. I am rallying through it, so forgive me. Some key dates to have in mind, which again is quite often missed. People aren't particularly aware of the date sometimes. So there's obviously one coming up which is particularly for trusts. It's also for FE colleges, which is the end of January, is the annual reports and accounts. Got to go on there. If you haven't already done it, or your pupil premium, PE and sport premium, information should have been updated by the end of July. So make sure you've got a handle on that. The pupil premium stuff is by the end of December. And then there are key dates around admissions throughout the year. So you've got the following academic year ones. The end of August should have been in year admissions information, should have been updated. And then the appeals timetable is coming up in February. And again, just because it's top of the pile, safeguarding, you've got to do that at least annually. So all your information on safeguarding does have to be updated, checked and updated at least annually. So publish the most recent version of your child protection policies as well. Okay, that's kind of headline stuff. That's general picture stuff. What I want to do today is I want to cover 2 particular areas of compliance. I'm going to have a little look at contact details on your site and curriculum on your site. And the reason I've chosen those 2 to have a particular look at today is they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum, as it were, on how complicated they are. One of the best things about the school contact details requirements is that actually it's really easy. It's really easy to get it right, but we see lots of gaps in it. It's a good quick win though. a lot of the time. So for contact details, you've got to ensure that the goal of it is to make sure that, again, I'm going to flick into some examples in just a moment. So bear with me just a couple of minutes more, and a bit of death by PowerPoint in a minute, so forgive me, I will go into some examples in a moment. But school contact details, providing, the goal is to make sure that the information I need as a parent or somebody else, but primarily a parent, is going to be easy to find. So I'm going to be able to access it easily. And again, there's some key people that put in there. So your postal address, your phone number, it's got to be there. Contact details, there's a specific requirement, right? You've got to have a named contact detail, and we're asked regularly about, do I actually have to put someone's name? So we have to put somebody in the office's name on there, and they want you to, but actually what we've found is if you put contact the admin team or the office team at whatever, it's completely fine. They don't, they're not. I think what they are looking for is head teacher's name. So safeguarding, send lead, those names to be available, because if I knock on the door, I want to know who I'm looking for some of these mission critical things that are kind of going on there as well. Best practice, make sure that the key named contacts, like I say, Senko, head teacher, DSL, they're actually named, and it says this is who this person is, so that you can get in touch with that person if you've got a specific need there. Quite often we see just a contact form is missing, just a contact form and no email address is on the site as well. Quite often trusts don't publish their registered office details. It's actually got to go on both the trust sites and school sites. So there's a bit of a thing to get right there. And we quite often see lots of missing or outdated governing body information as well. So list the full postal address and the email address. Don't just put a form on. I know there's maybe are we all geeks here today? But thank you very much. Data's me. But if is the thing about putting a link on, does that cause a bit of a spammy issue or a data issue? We don't really see a problem with it, to be honest. It's not really been a problem when people are putting email addresses on sites. They don't tend to be something that's really walloped in that way. Make sure you've got names for people, as I say. Trust, make sure you put in the trust information you've got to put on there as well. And then just make sure it's regularly checked. So every year we run an in-person compliance workshop, which is a full day of this stuff. So I know, I'm so sorry, deathly dull, but the food's good, I can promise you that. But what we find as we're working through those sessions with people is some people have got one bit spot on before we move on to the next one. So they kind of just start to have a little look around the site, and they start to see, oh my goodness, that person doesn't work here anymore. Oh my goodness, that person's moved from year 1 to year 3. And it's just really good to make sure that you're, from a compliance point of view, you're working hard to make sure you've got a job to do once a term or a couple of times a year to make sure the people on your site are right up to date. So finally, hopefully you can still see that. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. I'm on a monster monitor, so hopefully it's okay. So if any of these websites I'm showing you look ridiculously wide, it's my monitor's fault, not me. So this is, I believe, somebody who submitted their site for me to have a little look at through today. And so what I really wanted to do, let me see if I can find this up here, is I'm going to show you some other examples, but I just wanted to have a look at somebody who was hopefully either here today or signed up for the session. So this is Springwell School. So let's have a quick look at contact details first before we go anywhere any deeper, any further on anything. And what's really good here is the school name is there, the school address is there, is really clear. Telephone number with opening hours is really clearly marked there. That's an important one. The email address is easy to find, that's all on there. Named person for a main contact is all on there. What we don't see on here is we don't see Senko or head teacher. Okay, now what actually happens quite a lot is if I go, let me see, into send here. So that's the information report. Now, actually, this is really normal. This is a really normal thing for us to see, is the send stuff. Now, actually, you're gonna have to forgive me. I tend to get a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this because my youngest has Down syndrome, so I kind of get a bit fuzzy about some of this stuff. But it's really common for us to see send information report. And when I was looking around here, I go, I actually want to know some other stuff from a send point of view. So the requirements from a send point of view is not just to publish send information, it's to publish a bit more information about what the send world looks like in your school. And all the time we see, I've done the send information report. Actually, they're distinct things. It's a separate requirement. So you need to be really careful and look at that stuff. But what I can't find is who the send person is. So and again, it's okay, let's not freak out. But that thing I said about from a safeguarding point of view, depending on how you do it, speaks to me as an inspector, but also speaks to me as a parent who actually we're much more bothered about day to day, about how seriously you take things. So if I don't know, I mean, I can probably go down here and I can go and find a who's who. Yeah. So somewhere in here, I can probably find out who the Senko is. But it should be on the send page. You see what I mean? It's really important to make sure you're answering the question I've got. So the question I've got as a parent is that, but the reason they've made it a specific requirement is because they know it's a thing for parents. So let's make sure that you've got it listed there. Does that make sense? So then if I jump into, let's have a look, see at some of these that I've got here. So this is an example, another one that I just got ready for you. Really nice, clean form. Everybody's listed, head teacher, Senko, DSL. See that? 3 main people listed straight away, front and center, right under the address, right under the phone number, right under the email address, and then going into some of the stuff that is the other information on it. This is a good one here. Notice that the trust information is listed there as well. This one nails everything, like properly covers everything. The problem with it is, blimey, that's a lot of information on a page. But they've done a really good job of it and managed to keep it clean, and everything that should be there is there. Same thing here, maybe slightly better laid out. Here's my address, here's my main email address, principal, Academy Improvement Committee, which obviously is a current thing specific with them. Senko is on there. But I think there's maybe a couple of gaps on there. But you can see it's obviously that's a nice example of stuff on there. So can you see how that's a really good example of something that is actually going to be really easy for you to fix? So if I jump back into here, all those things you got to do, you got one page to put it on. It's just a list of information. Now, some of these other requirements, you kind of got to do some proper thinking about to make sure I'm going to meet it in a specific way. But if you want a quick win, if you're feeling a bit, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start from a compliance point of view, this is a really good place to start because it's really easy and you don't need to go and ask loads of other people on staff to give you the information you need to meet the requirement. You can just get it done. So it's a good one to just do in that sense. Feel free, as I say, ping any questions as they come up if that's helpful. But that's one thing that I wanted to cover. I'm going to spend a bit of time looking at curriculum, and I'm going to not go on too much on it, but I'm going to try and rattle through some pieces because I do want to try and make sure there's space for some questions, and there are some kind of key considerations. One thing to say, if it's helpful, if this is all right to say, is I do these workshops ourselves pretty regularly, do them once a month. So if anybody ever wanted to come on one of those when you're covering a specific area that you're struggling with, you're more than welcome to come onto those as well. Or like I say, I'm more happy to come back and do some more specific stuff if it's helpful. We haven't obviously got time to work through every area of compliance, but I'll show you the resources that we have available to you that can really set you off doing this stuff yourself. I really want you to kind of have that power in your hands, that knowledge in your head, as it were. So from a curriculum point of view, statutory DFE requirement for all schools and academies, you've got to publish some curriculum information. Like I said, there's a shift happening where there's specific things, there's more of an emphasis on what are you doing on your curriculum information on your site at the moment. Then it's also really frequently viewed. We see that a lot of the time. That's we think at the moment largely because they're very often linked into class pages, which is where parents might go and see photos of the kids if it's primary school. But it is one of the ones that's one of the areas of the site that's really quite popular to look at. It's also often overlooked and neglected as well. And I think one of the big reasons for that, certainly from feedback from conversations, is that you are when it's the opposite of the contact details stuff. You've got to ask other people for information, or you've got to get other people to update that information for you. It's quite a task to do. In terms of what you need to do, so you've got to publish the content of the curriculum for each subject and each year group. You've got to publish information on how parents and carers can find out more about the curriculum. That's missing loads. We see that missing on lots and lots of sites. And we're working hard here to go a bit beyond that. So rather than how you can find out more about the curriculum, just make it possible on your site to give parents the information about the curriculum rather than pick up the phone, let's answer the question for them in more of a self-serve way, which would just be better. Of course, how curriculum is accessible for pupils with SEND. You've got to have your reading schemes for the different key stages, your GCSE and Key Stage 4 qualifications got to be covered on there. And then from a couple of years or so ago, brand new one, which was the music development plan. So somewhere on the music bit of your site where you talk about your music curriculum, you actually have to put a music development plan specifically. That was, I think somebody clearly decided that somebody was a musician who was working at the DFE and went, you know what, I've got a beer in my bonnet about that. We're going to publish some information on that, but it's got a very specific requirement around it. In terms of best practice, again, I'll show you some examples to give you a bit of a steer on the kind of stuff that would be really good for you to do on this. But you need, what we see a lot is when I go onto curriculum, it's really dry content where I've just put a bunch of policies or this is, so in class, you'll create what you're going to do this term, which is amazing. And then that gets put on the site with no context or no further information or nothing to go, this is parents, how you can support your kids, nothing like that. So there are some cool things you can do, and it is becoming a more important thing to do as well. So starting with something that you've written that is a bit of a, something that is personally written that is about what we intend to teach here, how we do it, what our approach is, and then clearly group subjects and year groups with downloadable overviews. That's a really good thing to do. Make this whole thing as easy to navigate as possible as you can. Again, I'll show you some examples in a moment. Make sure the SEND stuff is clearly covered in all of it, and make it so that you're putting things in that bring that content to life a little bit as well. So let me go into a couple of examples on here. So where am I here? Here you go. So read St. John's, for example. So I'm just going to go through a few examples. I'm going to talk you through why some of these are good examples on here. So as I do that, I'll just shrink that so we can see both of those things sat side by side, if that's helpful, and hopefully that's not too dinky on your screen. So this one, for example, the curriculum intent really clearly listed on there. It's actually what we find a lot of times, a lot of jargon and stuff. And what's quite nice about this is it's just been written in a way that's actually friendly to me, who's not an educator. I don't know what I'm talking about. All the year group overview. So if I go into something like English, for example, some of it's a little bit dry still. We'll get into some really nice examples in a moment. But if I go into some of these here, I can see, okay, here's my science policy. Here's my topic map that's going to open in one of our bits of kit that's called a document group that lets you put whatever you want in there, and you can download that or do whatever. And then some nice photographic evidence of the kind of stuff we're talking about as well. So there's some really good stuff there as well. I think if we dug around, you could find the SEND information a little bit on there as well. But what's good about it, one of the best things about it, is it's really easy to find my way around. It's clean. It's really easy to find my way around. So that's a good one on there. If you have a look at Cockermouth School as well, it's actually a similar layout, but this is a high school. Again, a little bit of a wall of text. So if possible, we're going to avoid it. But what's really good about it is we've titled everything really nicely, made it really clear and really easy to find. And then as I go into the subject, you've used photos to bring that to life a little bit and make sure it's well structured. So actually it's really easy for me to engage with. And then if I go into art and design, I can actually just get my information about art and design, or if I go into drama, for example, all the information I need is there, and it's really easy to find my way around. So we're looking for really clean structure, nice intro, right into the specific groups that I need to get into as well. Bit of information on careers guidance, really important if you're working at the different key stage levels, information about GCSE stuff, and then some other piece on there. My criticism on this it's just a lot of text. And I bet you if we were to look around a lot of the sites of folks here today, we'd find that you'd just have a lot of text. And I want to show you that because it starts really well here, but some of this stuff is just too wordy. So we want to try and avoid that if we can. Again, there's the subject to those ones. This is another primary school. So again, this is really nice because it's given me it's a similar layout, but again, it's brought to life a little bit with some hierarchy of type, slightly different presentation in how stuff's done on here. So what are some key statements that we're talking about? You see how that's not just dry, it's actually a statement of our intent of what we actually want to do in something. Hey there, Rick, you okay?
Someone's just asked if the slide deck will be available afterwards, just possibly to save them making notes.
Yeah, absolutely will be. Yeah, I'll ping the whole thing over. Yeah, if that's helpful, of course it will. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Cheers, Rick. And so you can see how that's broken down quite nicely. This is a different way of presenting the information though. So if I go into science, we've just put what's kind of called one of these, it's like a letterbox image that just presents everything. And now everyone, there's a curriculum statement and a curriculum map that appears there so you can see exactly what's going to be taught, and that's available to open and download as well. So it's really nicely easy to use. I think if I were to just go quick whiz through some of these, I thought somewhere they might have actually cleaned it out. But somewhere in there, I thought there was actually some photos in some of them, but they don't seem to be there. Just a note in the music one, you can see the development plan summary as well. So you can see how you've ticked that requirement off quite nicely. If I go into my reading curriculum, which is a specific need, you've done a specific piece of information on there. What I really like about this though is you've got the curriculum where you've got the overview of everything. And then I go in, which is a really good way of doing it. Overview of everything, and then go into my key stages. And you could do this by year group. You could do this by subject area. So for key stage 1, so years 1 and 2, here's a welcome, a little bit of understanding about it. These are our classes. These are all the people in those classes. Here's my timetable. So this is what the day looks like. Now, there's actually a requirement of your school hours. So they've covered it there, and I know it's available elsewhere on the site as well, but that's what it looks like from a day-to-day. All the topic overviews are there based on what we're actually going to be talking about. And if I were to click on one of these here, this is where you can take it to another level. This is what we're going to end up all needing to do, is if I go into the topic overview for this term and I go into computing, I can click on one of these links here and it's going to give me an overview of what is a computing system that's relevant to working at that key stage from bite size or wherever else we've got the content. That's really good practice. And that is the level that we need to be working at really from a curriculum point of view. And then the other thing is the vocabulary. I think if I just go into another one here, you'll see different vocabulary, for example, on there as well. And I think this word that none of us know what it means, you can click the link to get an actual definition of the word as well. So can you see how from something like here, where it's a wall of text with some information in there, through to going, okay, I'm working at this key stage. I've really taken, this is a small primary school who've managed to do this, where we've supported them specifically on this one, but they've managed to figure out all the different areas of the curriculum on their site and really present them consistently the same way across everything in a way that makes sense. What's lovely when this is in place is all they need to do is update the content, and really you're going to be updating what your topic overviews are. That's really mostly what you're going to be changing there as well. That also then lets you just put evidence on class pages as well. So some really lovely stuff there as well. In fact, let's just have a quick look over here, which is the examples on here. So this was Springwell School. So we've got the curriculum pieces on here. Again, does it look out of date? Don't know. It's a question mark. Is that right? You've got a music development plan, so that's a win. My thing here, and I think I opened another one, so I'll go into class pages in a moment, but my thing on this was, if I'm a parent I don't really know what I'm looking at. So it feels like you've put the stuff on that you need to put on there, but actually if you want parents to engage with it and get the most out of it, there's nothing on there that tells me what it is or what it does or what I could do with it. And there's a big shift into not just putting stuff on that is information. You need more context, you need more instruction, you need more advice. You want parents to be more engaged, so we need to actually make it a bit easier for them to be engaged. So it's fine. I think, have you ticked the box? I'm not sure. I think you know, how parents and carers can learn more about the curriculum. I couldn't find that. I couldn't find the phonics or reading schemes on here for different key stages, so there might be missing pieces on there. So there's definitely things to certainly look through on this one, but it's really my biggie is obviously you got to tick the boxes, but I don't really know what I'm looking at. Class pages, on the other hand, if I go, okay, well, I know, okay, I've got my rainbow classes, let's go in this one because that looks like a red panda, so I really want to go and look at the red panda one because that's just cool. So really nice. I can see my class teachers, I can see the teaching assistants, I think that's what that is, and then you've got timetables, information on there. So that feels much better, but I still think you could go further and go make it feel really personal and go, this is who's in this class, this is a welcome, this is what we're doing, this is, you know what I mean, adding a bit more context to it, it just really elevates it. So there's definitely, for me, there's definitely some work to do on that as well. In terms of some key actions, I'm going to show you something in just a moment, but there's some kind of key actions from a curriculum point of view. Reviewing every year group and subject to make sure it's complete, make sure you've covered everything you need to, make sure you've got send links in there so that you're covering from a send point of view that's all sorted. I think we've just seen that kind of key stage 1 phonics and stuff wasn't there. I think I couldn't find it. So, and things like qualifications, that kind of stuff's got to be there and easy to find. Music development plan, of course, and then if you can, any opportunity you've got to put photos, blog posts, etc. in there is a really good thing to do as well. Some really quick wins. It's a piece of work, but once you've got it up and running, it's really powerful and it's not that hard to keep on top of. So turning topic titles into sentences that explain learning outcomes. 1 PDF per subject with intent, implementation, and impact. Adding a call to action. Contact, I've seen at particularly high schools, contact curriculum lead. If you want to learn more about anything, just making it so you've got a specific requirement. How can parents, carers find out more about the curriculum? Well, give them a named person to contact, or the head of a department or the head of a key stage, or whoever the right person is to do that. And then anything you can do to put some evidence in place of your curriculum being taught and taught well is really powerful as well. Just let me show you one more thing on here, which we've done for, here we go, done for a client recently. This is using an app, using a really nice little tool we've built that lets you create anything. It's AI powered. So what we've done here is given the app we've built a load of information that's in a PDF that's been done on it with lots of tables in, and said create something. Don't change any content, please don't change any content, but please can you give me something that I can then edit, but actually is a really nice interactive online version of it. And the AI spat out this really lovely thing on here. It's pretty cool. It's actually a work in progress, that, but that's all AI powered on that. So we're going to be rolling that out, so you can actually look at this. Is just cool, just very cool. That kind of stuff's coming down the line, so watch out for more information on that kind of stuff. So I want to show you really quickly. Okay, so I'm not going to go into PE and Sport Premium. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some resources in just a moment, but I really want to show you this. So this is available as a product from us if it's helpful. If you don't have the software to help you do it, I'm going to say, I think 3 things here. See if I can remember them all. The first one is download something like our guide, our checklist, but it goes beyond a checklist, and work through your site. That's the checklist to use. Others are available, of course, we've gone all BBC, but others are available for you to download. That's like your lo-fi version of it. So sitting with a piece of paper printed off and going, yep, that's on my site. Nope, I need to get that person to do that. Get that done. That's your work. your other version of that is this software. So if you're, I don't know if anybody's here is a client of ours, but if anybody's a client of ours, that's available for you in the your website software. If you're not a website client of ours, you can use this. It's available as a standalone thing where you can systematically work through your site. So if I go, right, okay, so I'm going to go down here, I'm going to find the contact details. I'm going to go onto the contact page on my site. So we can get that to load. There you go. And I've got, right, okay, I've got a postal address. Yep. Okay, I got a telephone number. Yep. And work through that systematically. Okay, so you got a really lovely manual report coming. We're not that far away from doing an AI version of this. So a little button will appear up here that goes, do an AI audit for me. Others, I know there's a couple of those that are on the market now as a thing that's available to you. We've been really careful because we work so hard to make sure our knowledge that we put out there is hopefully really good and robust. I really want to make sure that whatever we do from an AI point of view has no resulting brain drain, if that makes sense. So we really want the knowledge to be in your head because there's so many different nuances about this that we don't want anything that's AI powered to mess with that. But a button is going to appear here that will basically work through your site and audit it against the latest requirements for you, but it will be a steer and it will go, okay, I can find it or I can't find it, and it'll populate the notes with what it's found. So that's what's coming down the line for you as well. But that's a really lovely piece of kit that is available to you as well. Something that is also worth me mentioning, I think, is this product, which is called our map portal. So if you're from a trust and you're managing 40 sites, you can actually do all that in one central place and see what the compliance status is of all the schools across your site and all the analytics and page views and everything. And there's a ton of stuff on there as well for you. So there's a couple of different things that might be of interest. In terms of things you definitely, I would, if it's okay to say, would recommend that you go and get our school website requirements guide. Again, if you went to Schudio.com, it's under resources, but we can share a link if that's helpful. Our blog's got tons of content on how to keep your site compliant, and every area of compliance has its own blog with step-by-step instructions. So if there's some stuff where, there's some that specifically, you need to do work, then there are step-by-step instructions on how to meet each requirement on our blog as well. We offer some other pieces as well, but those are the kind of main things that would be, I think, probably most helpful to mention to you now. If it's helpful at all, we do have a community. It's a bit like the ANME one, but we can skip past that. We do offer a load of what we call Community Plus, where we have a load of on-demand training around all sorts of stuff. So if it's helpful to actually learn a bunch of things about some HTML stuff, analytics, always compliance stuff in there, leading a team of people managing websites across whatever kind of organization. There's a load of on-demand training for that. But a few important considerations. So again, a lot to get through there, but I'm going to whiz through these, and then there's definitely time for questions if that's helpful. Do expect some more changes. I've obviously been doing this a long time, and I think there's some stuff coming down the line. We're overdue, and who knows what could come, but I think just some of the stuff that's been happening from an inspection framework, another point of view. I think things like, is it Martin's Law, where you've got to have plans in place for what happens if there's kind of a critical incident in school. I expect that kind of stuff's going to end up needing to be published on your site as well. So there's a few things we think are going to come. I would always say that does not mean wait. I think most of us, if not all of us here, will know we've got some work to do on this stuff. We'll just keep putting our things up on the ANME platform. So if there's any requirements, I'll make sure that we post something on there. So if you don't want to subscribe to our stuff, I'll make sure that we put that stuff on there so you're up to date without doing that. In terms of next steps, that are really good next steps to take. Get on with carrying out an audit. It's something that we tend to put off a little bit, particularly if we find it a little bit hard work. Then create that plan. Like I say, there's tools available. There's lists available to do that. At least once a year from an audit point of view. Note the dates for publishing information. Again, we try and make sure you know when dates are coming up, but there are specific dates you need to do stuff for. Again, always stay prepared for changes coming down the line. Download that guide I've mentioned. And this is slightly boffy, but it is a journey. It's not a one-time task. You can't just tick the boxes and have it done and then forget about it. It's more like mowing your lawn. So you need to get on top of it, and you need to keep on top of it. And if you're keeping on top of it, one trust leader said to us, we just don't worry about this stuff anymore, because we've got something in place that makes sure that it's really, really, really tough and helpful. No pressure on any of this at all, but I want to make you a little offer if it's going to be helpful for this. So we usually charge £349 for an audit of a site. We're really robust, really go through it, do a detailed report, and then we'll meet with you and talk you through it, because there's always questions around it. There might be things, where you say, well, this isn't there and you've got a reason for it. Okay, so then we'll work together out how to navigate that stuff. So it'd be a really actionable report with some with the conversation with us, as I say. I'm including that Community Plus, so all those on-demand courses as well, which we usually charge £199 for, and that compliance software that I showed you, where if you're from an individual school and you want to be able to check your site against the latest requirements, I'm really happy to do that for £199 as a special offer. And then if actually you can do it as a one-off, but if you want to do £199 a year, we'll do an audit for you every year, and you'll get all that training and that compliance software as well. So that's an offer that I'm really happy to do for folks that are here, if that's something that's helpful, and we can share details afterwards. If you want to reach out to me, if you've got any questions, I'm always really happy to have a conversation with anybody who maybe you just have a question, just one bit where you're not sure about. That's my email address. You're very welcome to get in touch with me. And if you're thinking about, well, how do I manage this across a trust? If you go to schudio.com/mapportal, you'll find out more information about that product that helps you manage compliance and other stuff across lots of sites, including that really lovely AI generated curriculum thing that I showed you. Part of Map Portal gives you the ability to create content using AI and drop it on all of your sites across the trust and manage it centrally. So if you've got something like news or that you want to shout about in the trust and put it on all your school sites, or one trust asked us about, they wanted to do a really nice push on on attendance. And again, the page was just a wall of text. So we created something beautiful for them using the app, dropped it across, I think 14, 15 sites, and they can manage it centrally. Beautiful content. There's not just compliance stuff, there's some cool stuff in there as well. If it's helpful, I can ping over a bunch of other stuff. This is things that I've kind of always got in my locker that I know people find really helpful. So school website peace of mind. So it's the things to do, to make the steps to take to go, okay, I'm not worrying about this part of my school life so much anymore. Some handy AI prompts that will help you from a compliance point of view as well. It's in preparation for the kit we're going to launch. The latest, it says 2024, it's the latest practice that's in there as well. I think I put a typo in there. Obviously the session's going to be recorded, that's already covered, but I can put some other sessions in there as well. Again, my contact details, but if there's any questions, I'd love to try and answer any questions as best I can. I'm really grateful for the chance to come and chat to you all, and I do hope that's been just a little bit helpful. As I say, I'm available if you've got any questions now, or you just want to ping something afterwards.
Thank you very much, Ian. I think there is one question already in the Q&A. Do you want me to read it out, or can you see it?
Yeah, would you mind? I can't see it, and I'm probably looking at it.
When would you recommend doing an audit? I tend to do one once a year, but never sure when's the best time. One of the statutory documents doesn't need to be on until December, I think, in brackets. So if we do it in November, then that's not ideal, but also don't want to do the audit too late.
I'd say my best advice to you, if you were doing once a year, my best advice to you about when to do it is whenever the heck you feel like it and have got time to do it. I think I would be a bit pragmatic about it and make it work around what you can do. But what I would say on all of that is, so if you say, well, actually, I know, I'm going to make this up because I don't, and it's probably the worst time of year, but if I know the first week back in January, for example, everything's ramping up, and I know that's a good window for me to get on top of it before everything else blows up, then that's a really good time to do it. So that would be my advice. But I would go, okay, what are the 6, 7, 8 dates I've got to make sure I meet? And I'd calendar those. So if it was PE and Sports Premium was relevant to me and it's 31st of July, I've got to publish it, I'd probably be saying May, June, who have I got to speak to make sure I've got that information, so that the stuff that's on my desk, my job on my desk is to make sure the stuff on the website is up to date. I'm reliant on other people giving me content to make sure the site's up to date. Who's responsible, and this is an organizational question, whose responsibility is it to make sure that content gets to the right person? So in one setting, it might be you who looks after the website and needs to make sure it stays compliant, need to go and get the information from people. But likewise, organizationally, it might have been decided that no, your job's looking after the website. Your job is not chasing everybody else for their stuff that they know the deadlines for. If that makes sense. So whatever you're doing in your setting, you'll need one of those for sure, otherwise it will never happen. But whatever's happening, and of course some stuff's done by governors, some stuff's done by SLT, some stuff's done by kind of department stuff, some stuff's done by kind of admin, as it were. So if you've got a place in the year that works for you with kind of subtasks that are dated based on when you know these specific ones need doing, you're well covered then. That's what I think in terms of best practice for them.
Right, thank you. We've got another question just come in. Is there guidance for SEN schools specifically? A lot of the information isn't relevant to us, i.e. SENCO key stage specific curriculums, etc.
Yeah, you don't have to. There's a load of stuff from a SEN point of view that you don't have to do. The really interesting bit with this is it's really setting specific. So it's not the case that all SEN schools don't publish all the information that they don't have to. So some of them do, because there's, for example, okay, well, some results might not be published at all, even though some of the kids might be doing GCSEs, for example. In an instance like that, where actually you just wouldn't publish that information, I'd always say, okay, but why? And say on your website why. You don't have to go into details of specifics about, people and individuals, of course you don't. But in terms of saying something that just covers it, that says, okay, we don't publish this information because, just say it. So if you've got a results page on your site, or you've got a key information page on your site that links off to all the stuff you've got to do, like your policies and obviously safeguarding you've got to do and all those others, but there's pieces where you don't, just say, our setting specifically, we don't need to publish this information because therefore we haven't done. Same thing as going pay gap reporting, executive pay. So you've got to publish, if anybody's earning over 100 grand a year, you have to publish that, and you have to put in a little table in 10 grand brackets in a little table. You don't need to publish a table with lots of zeros in if nobody's earning that kind of money, but just so it's said, so you've avoided the question. If I go, are you joking? Nobody here. Try and do it without irony. But are you joking? Nobody here earns over 100 grand a year. You've said it. You've answered the question. I think I'm repeating myself a little bit on that, but it's a really good way. Honestly, we've seen it lots and lots of times where people said, actually, you just avoided a load of questions that we was good to avoid because we just said it on the site. Same thing applies for send stuff, I think. If you were using something like our report tool or a checklist, I would put not applicable, but I'd always put by each requirement that you're not doing. But I'd just, even in that, I would even put why it's not applicable. So even if you don't put something on the site, which I would recommend you do, you still have noted why you've not done it. Worst thing in the world is kind of scrambling around for an answer. Why have we not done it? Well, that person over there knows why. Well, actually, they expect that knowledge in your hands, don't they?
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. There are no more questions.
Awesome.
So a big thank you to Ian for that. Thank you for all that attended. We're going to end the event shortly. I'd just like to wish everyone, when it comes, a very nice October half term, and see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much, or the next meeting. Thank you very much.